Hello, everyone on the internet. My name is Zach, and today I'm going to be talking about internet privacy. This is a topic that's been going around for a while, and it's a constant battle of, people being safe and being protected, as well as upholding their rights to privacy. So, why am I talking about this? The reason why I'm talking about this is very recently there was some discussion about a law that's going through Congress right now that will allow the FBI, without a warrant, to get your browsing history and use that to figure out if you're doing something illegal or illicit. I don't agree with this law. I don't think it's a thing that should happen. I think privacy is very important. But unfortunately, people want to do what they want to do, and it's probably going to pass, unfortunately. So, I wanted to talk about ways you can prevent this and stop this so that people aren't spying on the things that you're doing on your browser. Now, you might ask, well, why? I don't have anything to hide. I haven't done anything wrong on the internet. What reason do I have to protect my browsing history? Anyone can look at what I do and it doesn't matter. And that might be true, but there's other reasons why you'd want to protect your browsing history. And before I start on getting into that topic, I do want to talk about something that I've been working on right now. I don't know how far this video is going to go on the internet, but it's the internet, so, things happen. So I am starting a Meetup group for CNY IT professionals. It's for everyone. Network engineers, system admins, programmers. Most of the stuff we're talking about is network, server, and security side of things. Emerging technologies, things that are going on at work, things that are going on in your help desk, all kinds of great things like that. Everything's online, of course, because of the current situation. Our first meetup Zoom meeting is going to be happening on Saturday, May 23rd at 2 p.m. And you can go ahead and go to Meetup and find our group and join up. Only open to CNY. I want to keep it focused because eventually I want to meet people in person. And that brings me to my next point is who am I and what knowledge do I have that you might trust me, because it's the internet, and if you're watching this video, you probably know me, but you might not. So I am currently a network engineer. I've been doing that for about a year now. And I graduated from SUNY Onondaga Community College in last spring. And my degree was computer information systems with a specialization in networking. And in addition to being a full-time network engineer, I'm also studying cybersecurity at Utica College full-time as well. So I have a lot of knowledge. I'm not an expert by any means, but I know the basics, and I'd like to share that with people. Even people who may not, know as much, because I think everyone has a right to privacy, even people who aren't nerds. So with that being said, let's start with some easy things that basically anyone can do. So I'm going to go to my Facebook, and you can see right here, this is my post I made earlier to my friends. I was talking about it, and it was a list of things that people could do. So if I open a new tab on Chrome and I go to facebook.com, which I'll do, you will see that as soon as I get there, I will go to my feed. I'm logged in. Great. With an extra notification there. But anyways, that's besides the point. So I'm logged into my Facebook. That's cool. The thing is unless you have it configured, if I close this browser and reopen it, I can go right back into my Facebook. It's all saved on your computer. That's how you're able to log in so quickly. It's convenient, yes, but it means that the information's on your computer, and if the information is on your computer, that means someone can get to it. Well, how do you fix that? Well, if you go to your settings of your Chrome or your Firefox and you click it, you can see that here there's an option for clear browsing data. You click that. Mine by default, I go to advanced and I go all time. You just check off the things you want to check and you hit clear and it'll be gone. There are some downsides to this. This means that if you clear this, that now you're going to have to log into everything again. So make sure you know what your passwords are to all your things before you click this, because if you forgot your password, you might have a hard time getting back into your account. But this is really super easy, and it will protect you pretty well, unless someone gets a hold of your physical hard drive and takes the data out of that. But you're probably in a lot more trouble if that's the case. So there's that. Another thing you can do if you're wanting to go somewhere temporarily, or a great example is if you have more than one Gmail and you want to log into another Gmail, this is great. So you go to the little three dots here and you hit new incognito window. What this does is it's a separate browser window, and it doesn't actually save any of your browsing history. So this other window back here, it's saved. If I close this, it will remember it, but in incognito, it doesn't save it. So if I go to facebook.com here, I get the login screen because it doesn't remember. It's not pulling the data from my other browser window. Now, this only prevents you from being spied on if the person spying on you has access to your computer. It doesn't prevent people from spying on you over the internet, because in order for you to go to the internet, you have to send your information out there and other people can listen. And the biggest culprit to listening to your information is your internet service provider. They want your information. They want to know where you're going, what you're doing, because if you do something illegal, they could be held accountable. And they can also use the information they gather from you in order to sell your information to other people. And Facebook is another example. Anything you put in Facebook, they can use. Have you ever noticed that you talk about something online and then all of a sudden you start getting advertisements about it? That's because they're collecting your information. And that's why Facebook is free, because they use your information and they sell it. So another thing you can do is install an add-on. One of the add-ons that you can use is this one called Ghostery. I believe this is available both on Firefox and Chrome. But what this does is it takes requests for information and blocks them. Now, the downside to this is that there are some websites that will break when you use this, and you'll just have to disable it to use it, because there are certain websites that will not allow you to proceed without gathering some information about you, and they've designed those websites specifically for that. It also doesn't stop what you actually type and enter. So you can have all the information requests blocked, but if you put in a post on Facebook, I like Ford Mustangs, you might start getting Ford Mustang advertisements in your feed. This isn't going to do anything about that. And really, there's nothing you can do about that because it's Facebook and Facebook has the data. The next thing you can do, and this one's a little bit more difficult, but it's as simple as installing something, is using a VPN service. Now, what is a VPN? A VPN creates a encrypted, which means the information is scrambled on the inside, tunnel from you to a server owned by the VPN. I strongly recommend that you get a VPN that's well rated on the internet, and also one that's paid. There are free VPNs out there, but those free VPNs need to pay for their servers somehow. And the easiest way to pay for that is to use the information traveling over their network and selling it. So use a paid one. I use private internet access. There's a couple of other great ones. I've heard NordVPN is a great one. The greatest thing about these VPN services, yes, you have to pay for them, but they are incredibly cheap. This one is only $10 a month, but if you have the money to pay for it a year in advance, you can get as low as $3 a month, and it covers multiple devices. I believe private internet access is $5, and it's not just for PCs. You can also use it for your iPhone or your Android. It's awesome. And this is as simple as install it, log in, click go. You can have it set up so it turns on automatically when your computer turns on, a bunch of really cool things. Side effect of the VPN is you also are able to bypass geo restrictions for video sites, streaming sites. Perfect example, I have now, this doesn't seem to work on my computer because Netflix can detect my VPN on my computer, but on my iPhone, I love Studio Ghibli movies. If you don't know what it is, check them out. They're fantastic anime movies, basically the Disney of Japan. And they recently announced that Netflix is going to have these up on their service, so you can go there and watch these Studio Ghibli movies. Except if you live in the United States, where someone else has the rights to it or something like that, so they can't show it here. So what I do is I take my VPN and I set it to be coming from the UK. And when I do that, on my phone, I can get the entire library that shows up if you were accessing Netflix from the UK. You can do this for other countries, but it also does it in foreign languages. So if you do Japan's, you'll probably get some more anime, but they'll probably not be subtitled. Haven't tried it yet. But, you know, if you speak the language, it's great. Check it out. There are some downsides to this. Some websites will break with this. Now, if that happens, you just turn it off and it, you know, act as if you're normal. But now your information is not encrypted, it's not protected, so people will be able to see it. And if you have a really fast internet connection, like, you know, 500 megabit or gigabit like I have, it's a performance set, and it will take a little bit longer to access the websites you're trying to go to. If you're a gamer, your latency will increase. Not great. It's not very much, but it is. For me, I get about 850 megabits to most websites if my VPN is off. But if I turn it down, I jump down between 250 and 350, which doesn't bother me. I turn it off when I have a large download. Not a big deal. These are easy to set up, you know, and there's a lot of help out there if you need it. If you're a power user and you like customizing things, there's tons of customization options, at least with PIA. But this is pretty much anyone can probably do this. It's pretty easy. The next thing you can do is something called Cloudflare DNS. So to give you a brief explanation of what DNS is when you type a website into your address bar on your browser, your computer in the background is doing something. Because if I want to go to google.com, your computer doesn't understand what google.com means. It does everything in binary and numbers. So what your computer does when you type in google.com is it actually reaches out to a DNS server and it asks, hey, what's the IP address or the numerical address of google.com? And then that DNS server will respond and say, here is the IP address of google.com, and then you get to Google. It happens in a flash, you don't even see it happening, but that's what happens in the background. Now, typically, by default, your DNS server is your ISP, which means even if you have a VPN turned on, you may not necessarily be protected from their ISP knowing what websites you're going to. I won't name specific sites, but if you have adult tastes and you go to particular websites, they may not be able to see what your preferences are, but they'll certainly be able to see that you're going there. And you may not want people to know that, understandably. There are other reasons for it as well. You know, you just don't want people to know what websites you're going to. Hackers can use that to target you. If they see you going to Google a lot, they might assume you have a Gmail account and start trying to hack your Gmail. Many different options with that information. So what you do is you use an alternative DNS so that your ISP doesn't know where you're going. And so Cloudflare set up this DNS address 1.1.1, and it's paired with another address called 1.0.0.1. And that will probably sound like Chinese to some people, but I will explain how it works, and it's very simple to set up. So on your computer, there's a way to manually set the DNS server so that it ignores what your router and what your ISP says. So on Windows 10, which is the only system I have right now, so you're going to have to, you might have to look it up if you have something else. You go to your search bar, easiest way to find it, and then go to your settings. Get to your settings, and you're looking for network and internet settings, which is right here in the top corner of my screen, and you click that. And then what you're looking for is adapter options. Now, when you're in this screen, before you click this, pay attention to what your adapter is, because if you change your wired adapter and your laptop is using your wireless adapter, then this will not work. You'll have to change it on the one that you are using to access the internet, and you'll find that right here. So look different to you, because I have a lot of Ethernet adapters because I have a bunch of virtualized stuff. So I'm not going to go to the one that's there because it probably doesn't have the right thing I need. But on your computer, if you're plugged in with Ethernet, you go to properties. If it's on wireless, you also have these options. And you're going to scroll until you see Internet Protocol version 4. And then you hit properties on that. And right here, you'll see use the following DNS server. Oops, you can't see it because it's down too far. Use the following DNS server address. On your computer, most likely, this is set to automatic, which is the default. It's important to note that you can only do this change if you have administrator privileges on your computer, which means if this is a company laptop or if it's a significant other that's given you a guest account to go on their computer, you're probably not going to be able to do this, and you'll have to ask permission, and you might get a no. So once you're here, all you have to do is type in the address 1.1.1.1. I had to type the dots, otherwise those can go up to 3 digits in each of those little sections. Then you can also do 1.0.0.1 as an alternate. I'm not going to save this because I already have this set up somewhere else. But once you do that, it will start redirecting those address requests to Cloudflare instead of your ISP or Google or whatever your provider gives you. And Cloudflare does not save information, so they can't see what requests you're making. Now, once we leave this zone where I'm starting right now, this is where we start getting a little bit more technical. So just be aware, it's going to get a little bit technical here. But before I go to that, important, this is not going to protect your privacy, but directly, but it will help you with privacy in certain circumstances. Make sure you have a up-to-date antivirus that is not the built-in Windows Defender antivirus that comes with your computer. There's a lot of different ones out there. I'm using Bitdefender. It's telling me I have to update. I should do that, but I'm in the middle of a video, so I'm not going to do that. It has a VPN built in. I don't like the VPNs that are built in with antiviruses. I just don't like them. You want to do regular scans on your computer, because the thing is that while if you have all these protections set up, but you have downloaded a keylogger from an email or a Trojan horse installed a program that does other things other than what you intended for them to do, people could be spying on you even with all these protections set up because they have their own backdoor. So get antivirus. It's not very expensive, and it will save you a lot more than you're paying for it, trust me, especially if you're not as savvy as a user and you're not sure what websites are safe. It's just easy to do. That being said, okay, so now we're moving on to some of the more advanced methods of protecting your privacy. The next step up, I would say, in privacy would be to use the onion router. And that sounds funny, but it's also known as TOR. TOR is famous for, or infamous for being used by hackers to cover their tracks. Now, TOR is very similar to a VPN, because what it does is when you go to a website, it actually bounces the requests to the website through multiple servers in multiple countries. And what this allows you to do is become practically untraceable. They won't really know where your source is unless they do some really heavy investigative searching to figure out where you're going or where you're coming from. Another important thing is it bounces through multiple servers, and it may come back a different way than it went. Now, TOR will absolutely break websites. There are some websites that require a session, and if that's one of those websites, it just won't work. So TOR won't work for everything. Also, TOR, because it's bouncing through multiple servers in multiple countries, it will slow your connection down significantly more than just a VPN. And it's important to say that just because you're using Tor doesn't necessarily mean you're safe from being spied on, because your connection isn't encrypted until it gets to one of Tor's servers. So what that means is this, and you would want to use this in combination with a VPN for the ultimate privacy. A lot of this also has some of the features of the add-on we were talking about earlier. Blocks trackers, defense against surveillance, all this stuff has encryption. So the really ultimate protection, if you want to go somewhere where you don't want anyone to know where you are, get a VPN using Cloudflare's DNS and use Tor as your browser. And unless someone really wants to find out what you're doing, they're not going to bother looking. It's just going to be too difficult. Tor is easy to work with, but it can provide a lot of frustration because it does break a lot of websites. So that's why I say it's more of a more technical thing, because there are workarounds to get to certain websites. It's just something that it can be frustrating if you're not a power user and you don't know the purpose, and it's just frustrating for you. That's totally understandable. Another thing you can do is another technical thing. You need to do a little bit of Linux configuration is getting a PiHole. So it sounds funny, but a PiHole, how it works is it kind of utilizes that DNS stuff we were talking about earlier. What it does is when you go to Facebook, the ad is not actually coming from Facebook. The ad is coming from ad.tracker.net or something like that. And so it has a DNS name. And so what PiHole does is you set it up. It's a separate device. You can get a Raspberry Pi, which is why it's named PiHole. Or you can just use a computer that you're not using anymore, plug it in somewhere, install Linux on it, and install PiHole on it. Just keep in mind, whatever you use is going to be on forever. If you turn it off, it'll break everything. And so what you do is, instead of directing your DNS to your ISPs or to Cloudflare's, what you do is you direct your DNS to the PiHole. And so PiHole will have a list of those names like ad.tracker.net that will blacklist. And instead of blocking it, what it does is it sends it into the void. It sends it to an address that doesn't exist. And so the website thinks everything's fine and dandy, but you are not seeing the ads or the trackers or anything like that. It just doesn't happen to you. You don't notice it. This will actually significantly increase the internet speed that you experience. It doesn't actually increase the speed, but what it does is it stops a lot of the applications that you don't see in the background that are drawing on your network connection. And when you set this up, you can set this up for the whole house. And the cool thing is, like all the other things I've mentioned today, these can all be used in combination to increase your security level. So with PiHole, you can designate another DNS server, which the PiHole will use to reach out to when it goes to the internet. And what you can do is you can set PiHole's DNS server to Cloudflare. So ultimate protection. If you want ultimate protection, you don't want anyone to know where you are, you use incognito mode to prevent browsing history from being saved, or use the settings to delete the browsing history. Use or use the TOR browser, depending on if the website actually requires a session or other things. Then use a VPN. Use a PiHole that points to Cloudflare. You do all this stuff, you'll make it so difficult to figure out what you're doing and how you're doing it that most hackers and things like that would be interested in your information, they're just going to give up. They want the easiest target. And unless you have been officially accused of a crime, the FBI or the CIA or any of those organizations that are going to be using this technology to track people, they're not going to bother. It's unless you're actually accused, it's just not going to matter to them. So I'd like to wrap up with why you'd want to do this. Again, you don't, just because you're not doing anything illegal doesn't mean that you don't want these people looking at you. It just, there's a lot of reasons why doing something that might technically be illegal may not be, if you describe the situation, it won't actually seem that bad. I'll give you a perfect example. Final Fantasy VII Remake came out. I love it. It's a great game. I love playing it. I want to play the original game. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. I can buy a PlayStation 2 or a PlayStation 1 and get the Final Fantasy VII original game disc. The Final Fantasy VII original game disc is super expensive. And the other thing is, even if I buy it, I'm going to switch my view right here. Even if I buy it, the money isn't going to Sony or Square Enix or any of those companies that originally bought it. It's going to the person who bought it. It's not making them any money. The game's 20 years old. The other option is you can find there's a PC version of the game that you can download that was compatible with Windows 98. Now, using piracy websites, you can find this and install it on your computer, and it works. Problem is, piracy is technically illegal. But the thing is that you can't buy this from the original publisher. If I could, I would, and a lot of times I do. One of my favorite games of all time is a game called Deus Ex. Old game. It's on the Galaxy of Games. GOG? Yeah. Good old games. I paid for it and downloaded it. Before it came out on that platform, I had it illegally on my computer. But here's the thing. I'm not stealing money from a publisher that isn't producing the game anymore, and no matter what method I buy it from is not going to make a profit from it. So I would use a VPN there, download my game. Yes, it's illegal, but is it unethical? I would say no. And that's up for an individual to decide. But, I have had people get notices. I've seen notices from their ISP saying, hey, we saw you downloaded something illegally. If you don't stop, we'll cut off your service. And they'll cut off your service. So that's all I'm going to cover because this video is getting a little long now. I'm going to wrap up with also talking about the CNY IT meetup again. Just a reminder, for CNY area only, we're going to be talking over all kinds of IT subjects. First meeting, we're just going to do meet and greet and, maybe talk about some subjects. Is going to be on Saturday, May 23rd at 2 p.m. via Zoom. So I'd like to see you guys there if you want to join. And if you caught me all the way to the end of this video, I would be awesome if you could share this message and see if we can get it out to the world. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and give it a like. I don't know if you want to subscribe to my channel. I make videos once every year or so, maybe more in the future. Thank you guys for spending some time here with me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, safe, and productive day.